And today in Wichita, Kansas City Council members are hosting a prayer vigil for victims of the crash. Kansas U.S. Senator Jerry Moran joins me now for more on this. Senator Moran, thank you for coming on. I know it's a tough time for you and your constituents today. So talk me through this, because you were on the very first nonstop flight from Wichita, Kansas to D.C. about a year ago. You say you've taken this route hundreds of times. So what was your first reaction to hearing that a flight on that very same path collided with this military aircraft?
Well, I mean, you start with disbelief, what happened, what are the facts, but how could this be? And then as the story unfolded, it became evident that this was a serious accident, a real challenge, and with some significant likelihood of loss of life. And of course, today we know that's been confirmed. And so it starts with disbelief, and it ends with this sense of tragedy, this care and concern for other people. And I suppose at some point in time, it then evolves into how do we make sure that no other victim has ever had, or that we certainly want to be the safest in the air as possible. And how do we make sure that that is and remains true?
And Senator, I know you've been in regular contact with the NTSB and the FAA, which are investigating the crash now. Have they told you any more about what happened here and how this happened?
Well, no, not really. And I've talked to the I talked to FAA and the Secretary of Transportation this morning. I've talked to Chairman Hamady, NTSB, twice today. So we're asking those questions, and we will know more, I think, throughout the day. I think the important thing that had to happen before much detail was provided, even as much detail as currently known, is the family members needed to be notified. They come first, and then we'll spend time. I chair a subcommittee, a committee on aviation in the United States Senate. We'll have hearings. We are fully paying attention to what we just went through with FAA reauthorization and the rules of which affect general aviation and aviation across the country. We want to make sure that what we've done is correct. And as we learn things from this incident, from this tragedy, we'll make changes as needed. I think there's a number of things that you would want to look at in any airplane accident, and we're going to do that. We're going to do it once more, and we'll certainly do it with passion and commitment for our victims. You mentioned this flight. I do fly this plane, this flight many times. We have one nonstop service, one flight a day to Washington, D.C. from Wichita's Eisenhower Airport. The nature of that flight and the nature of Wichita and Kansas is we will know the victims, and we'll know somebody who knows the victims. We'll know family members or where they work. And so you saw with the mayor and the effort in Wichita, you heard about the prayer vigil that's taking place later at City Hall in Wichita. The thing about this is that we're so close. We're small enough, and yet we're big enough to have the capacity to do many things. And one of the things that stayed with us is, populations grow and people change, is we still care about our neighbors and our friends. And so there's a tremendous outpouring. I mean, it's a really, really sad day at home in Kansas, and it will be that way, difficult to recover from for a really long time.
Understandable there, of course. Officials say there were about 300 responders who were on the scene last night. I know you were at Reagan National Airport throughout the night. What was it like there?
It was a sense that everything that could be done was being done. You could see the dramatic and significant response to this collision, and it was widespread. And while I expressed my condolences earlier and I talked about the nature of Wichita and Kansas, I mean, there are victims who are not Kansans. There are certainly people here in the Washington, D.C. area. And I saw that the folks who work here, who work at the airport, who provide emergency response for the D.C. area, they were at work doing their job with tremendous intensity and skill. And we're very grateful for the efforts to do everything they could to retrieve and to find anybody who might be living and to recover those that were not. And I mean, and I would say that the federal response, I have long-term relationships with the FAA and the National Traffic Safety Transportation Board, but also just American Airlines. We had an important conversation last night with the CEO of American Airlines, but all of the folks, I talked to the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Transportation, all those folks were responding to me as they should. I mean, I saw this. They responded as they should, and there was a lot of willingness and interest in trying to make sure that the best circumstance could arise from this terrible circumstance.
Senator, have you been able to talk to any family members of the victims? Any message to them today?
You know, we've monitored our telephones here in our office, in our Senate offices, trying to find out if there's any family members that have reached out to us. We certainly have staff in Wichita for the same purpose, and we're reaching out to be available if those victims' family members want to have a conversation with me or with our team. I also understand there's additional gathering of victims' families here in Washington, D.C. later today, and that'll be another opportunity for us to make sure we're available for any kind of, certainly the idea of comfort and sympathy and condolences, but also if there's something specific that we can do to help solve a problem, to answer a question, we'll be there.
All right, Kansas U.S. Senator Jerry Moran, we appreciate your time today, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you.